Live streaming is on.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, at whatever time you're watching this. I don't know if you're watching this live or not, so whatever. I am testing YouTube to see if we are live because I don't trust YouTube at all, as you can imagine. Yes, we are live anyway. So, hello, everybody, again. My important, as always, notice of the day, public service announcement, blah, blah, blah. Wear your fucking mask. Don't be an asshole. This is not about you. It could be about you. But if you want to die, I don't care. If you're an idiot, it's your fucking problem. I care about the other people you could kill because of being an asshole. So it's not about you. Again, it's about the rest of the people, the elderly, the young, whatever. Be careful. Wear your mask, please. And after this happy announcement, hello, Jamie. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Wear your fucking masks, like the man said.
Yes. How's life? How's everything? How's everything around you? Is the situation getting any better around you? Or is just crazy as fuck?
On a cultural, political, and personal basis, it's utter shit, mate, and has been for several months. But we keep smiling through because we're British.
Yeah, well, that's true. What is the thing you miss the most with all this? If somebody knocked on your door now, like knock knock, hey, everything is solved, we got a vaccine, we got rid of Boris Johnson. No, that wasn't. But anyway, we have the vaccine, everything is fine again. What's the first thing that you could do?
Well, the thing that I miss the most is not being relaxed when my wife wants to go and visit the grandchildren and things like that, because that's a big deal. I mean, I feel quite vulnerable to this virus. She and I are both in our mid-60s. I haven't had the best of health in the last month or so. But there's a strong emotional pull to family, obviously. And I resent feeling resentful if she wants to go and see the grandchildren who are now back at school, etc. So, yeah, all that free association with family. The rest of the population, I can take them or fucking leave them, to be perfectly honest. But, when it comes to family and the grandchildren, I do miss that.
Yeah.
And yes, we do see them, but, it's not the same, obviously.
Yeah. Do you remember the last time you went to watch a movie before this started?
I didn't go to watch movies very often anyway. So, I'm afraid, excluding me from a movie theater is not a great punishment.
No, that's the question is because, believe it or not, most people that I ask this question to, even if they watch it in March before this craziness started, they don't remember. It's like, we went through a door in the multiverse or space or time or whatever you want to call it, and pop, if we don't remember what happened before March, it's really weird.
I don't watch many movies anyway, and it'll be 10 years since I last went to a movie theatre, and I couldn't tell you what. It may even have been that Constantine movie was the last one that I saw in a theatre.
And you loved it.
Oh, it was fantastic, mate.
And
absolutely brilliant.
Are you watching any TV shows at all, or TV shows, theater, whatever?
No, I tend to be a boring ass who just watches politics and news and gets cross, shouts at the television. Yeah, I'll watch the odd thing. What have I watched? The odd Netflix or Prime offering, but I can't even remember what they were. I watched that detective thing on Prime. I don't know. I can't remember what it was called. It absorbed me for a while anyway. Bosch. That was it. Yeah, I thought that was okay, but then it got up. After you get 2 or 3 series of these things, the novelty's worn off considerably.
Yeah, but when you're watching one of those, at least I always look for character above atmosphere or structure or presentation, etc. In your case, is there anything that lures you in, that calls you? And I mean, yeah, the characters, the settings, the genre, even if we're talking about being horror or something like that. Is there anything in particular, or just whatever?
Well, I like to watch things that give me an insight into a culture or an environment that I'm not familiar with on a personal basis. I like some verisimilitude in the location, in how people behave and stuff. That fascinates me. So I watch things just for that. I quite like foreign movies or foreign stuff when I get a chance to see it or come across it, just because of that. Because it's it shows me what's universal about the human nature, the human spirit, and how we differ from one another on cultural levels. And so that gives, that would attract me to watch something if, I'm getting an insight here. What puts me off, particularly detective shows and things like that, is any fucking detective whose family problems are more than 5% of the storyline.
Oh.
Which seems to be a stock in trade. It just infuriates me. I don't care about your angst-ridden teenage child or your relationship with that person or your difficult marital circumstances. I want to know about the crime.
Yeah,
your intellect and your intellectual ability to solve it, and so on and so forth. Forget about the domestic shit. We've got plenty of that of our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's supposed to be a detective show. We're supposed to be learning about that. It's like when they say, going back to the typical comics thing. Oh, Batman is the best detective in the world, and I keep saying, when are you showing that?
Yeah.
And it's like, what? But no. When are you showing that? I'm sorry. I believe he's the best. Blah blah blah. But at the same time, I need you to show it sometime. Even one every 100 issues, just to remind people why he is the best detective in the world. It's like talking about Sherlock Holmes being the best. And imagine Arthur Conan Doyle never showed any of his prowess. He just said it. Oh no, he's the best. Yeah, but I need some, proof of that.
I mean, having said what I just said and decrying all that personal stuff in detective fiction, I'm guilty of it myself, I suppose, to some extent, with the Hellblazer stuff. I mean, I gave this occult detective a sort of family backstory that didn't exist before.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand writers and directors' desire or instinct to try and make their characters more fully realized by showing something of their personal lives. But as an audience member, it just
that's fine. I don't think it's also I don't think it's bad when you have some part of the story revolving about, as you said, about the personal life, because we all have a background, we all have a life. I agree with you on the other side, which is when it's more than 70% of the story is about, oh my god, my life is shit, my family, blah blah blah. Wait, are we doing a soap, a drama, or we're doing a detective? It's what is the story we're talking about here? So that I don't think you did wrong, or that it's wrong at all to have personal stuff into the stories. I think it's bad, as you said, when it's a lot. Have the biggest percentage of the story is about.
I'm just preempting criticism.
Why comics as a writer? What was the thing that made you say, this is what I want to do? And aside of the possible potential answer, I've always read comics as a kid, blah blah blah. So this is what I wanted to do.
No, because I'm the opposite of that.
I
couldn't give a shit about superhero comics then or now, if I'm brutally honest. Opportunity is what started me as a writing in comics. I mean, from the age of about 12 or 13, I was anticipated that I would be a writer, presumably a novelist. That was, in the back of my mind. I was too bone idle really to do anything much about making it happen, other than, writing a few short stories and a play and bits and pieces, and then getting jobs in bookshops and timber yards and taxi driving establishments, etc., and studiously avoiding making any move towards being a writer, until somebody who a few people in the comics world may have heard of, who was a friend of mine in my hometown of Northampton, Mr. Moore, said to me one day, he said, "Jamie, you could probably do this." This was after a few years after he'd become established as a comics writer himself. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And Alan graciously gave me an introduction to an editor at Marvel UK, and I got on with writing some Night Raven stories, prose at first, and then Captain Britain, first sequential stories that I did way back in the early 80s. And I started to develop some interest and affection for the medium.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they sent me money when I sent scripts in. And thereafter I spent the next, I don't know how many years, few decades, earning a living from writing.
Mm-hmm.
in comics, which was great, and learning more about, visual storytelling. And I mean, words were always my thing. Words still are my thing. I mean, that's what works for me. The words come first, basically, and then I work the pictures out afterwards.
Yeah.
But I have got a visual imagination, which holds me in good stead, as I discovered through doing the job. So I did that for however many years it was, and then I suddenly remembered that ambition that I'd had when I was 12 or 13 to write a novel, and also realised that I was on the verge of 60, and that if I didn't get the fuck on with it soon, I may not have the chance. Also at that time, I guess I was sort of drifting away from comics a little bit. I mean, I was lucky in my tenure at Vertigo that Vertigo existed, and that Karen Berger was there to indulge my idiosyncrasies, because I certainly wouldn't have had a professional career in comics anywhere else, I don't think, and I don't think I would now. I was fortunate in being located in time and place where that was able to occur. But as I say, got to a point where I didn't think I'd really got that much new to offer, and there was plenty of other people about who did want to advance the medium and carry on. And I thought, right, now's my chance to write some novels. I haven't got an expensive lifestyle, no cocaine or whore habit, or that's going to bankrupt me. The mortgage is paid off, the kids are grown up, so I don't need a lot of money to live. So I thought I can indulge myself and just do what I want to do, write what I want to write, which turns out to be not very much. But, when I get into something, I've written 3 novels in the last 6 or 7 years, I suppose. When I get into it, it's great. It's just getting me there without the benefit of deadlines and, editors demanding stuff, and the guilt that you get when your collaborator is trying to feed a load of starving children and you haven't finished the script. Those were the things that made me productive, in the course of my career, and I don't have those anymore. In fact, I have multiple distractions, like endless elderly relatives dying and leaving complicated probate situations to sort out, and and a virus trying to kill us all that has to be defended against, and is a big distraction. And then a personal issue where I got a bacteriological infection, which then managed to subvert my immune system and try to paralyze me, which was a little alarming. A little thing called Guillain-Barré syndrome, if anybody wants to look it up. I'm just recovering from that now. So, that kind of mitigates against the creative energies.
But you're getting better, right?
Yeah, I'm getting better. I was very lucky, actually. I mean, that I started to get double vision and go numb in my peripheries, and went to the local doctor, and they hadn't got a clue, but they sent me to A&E, casualty. And fortunately, a doctor there spotted it pretty quickly and started treatment. So my symptoms were relatively mild, and the treatment lasted 5 days, and touch wood, I've been okay since, gradually getting better. But it kind of undermines you a little bit when your own immune system decides it wants to paralyze and probably kill you. It knocks your confidence on the health front a little bit.
Well,
but hey ho, we're okay. We're okay.
Good. That's the best thing. Do you miss the comics writing at all, or you are just satisfied and happy with the novel writing you're doing?
I've always writing, to me, that was always been a love-hate relationship with the word. I mean, I describe it as blank page terror. That thing that, when you've got to write a script and there's nothing, you just got to sit there and go inside yourself and discover a story and put it down on paper in a form that somebody else can understand and visualize for you. So no, I don't miss the angst of any of that, and the fact that other people are relying on you. But it was fun. And, once I was in that world, like with any piece of writing I do, once I get in the zone, nothing else really matters. And it's great. So no, I don't miss it. And yes, I do miss it at the same time. But I'd say the same about novel writing. I mean, I haven't written anything significant other than a few short pieces for various purposes for the last couple of years since I finished the last Lepus book. And yes, there's a part of me always nagging away. Get the fuck on with it. Write some more. You're getting older. You might have 5 or 6 more books in you if you're lucky. Get on and do them. And the other part of me thinks, fuck it. I've got enough money. The garden's nice. I'll go and take some photos. I like taking photos. I'll do that. So, I got a charmed life really at the moment, other than all the shit that's around.
No, I was asking because I'm sure, and I know because they have told me, that some editors would have you back doing comics like this the moment you wanted to do it. That's why I was asking if you miss it or not.
I have had a couple of invitations, and I have said yes, that I would do things, and then I haven't actually done it. So yes, I don't miss it quite that much, and I'm honored. I'm flattered and honored that people still want me to do stuff. It's been a while now, and I'm surprised that actually people actually remember that I did do stuff.
I don't know. People
I'm flattered by that, but
go.
No, that's what.
Okay, no, I was saying that people, of course, people remembers and loves it. Me, one of them, of course. And but I remember I have Garth a couple months ago, and we were talking about, of course, about his Hellblazer, and he only said, "Look, Jamie was the best, and he's still the best," and I still remember him as the best. That's the best Hellblazer that's ever been done.
That's very nice of him to say, so I appreciate that.
So we all love to have you back. But if you're happy doing your thing, screw it.
I'm never going to say I'll never write another comic. I might suddenly get a brilliant idea for something that I'd like to do and do it, because I think, without wishing to sound arrogant, I've written enough comics that I know how to do it, and I can do it relatively quickly in comparison to a novel. A novel I thought would be great and liberating because it was endless words and you could just sort of splurge, and you hadn't got to try and refine and hone everything down into something that fits in 5 or 6 frames on a page, 20 odd pages, end of story. But novels are hard too. All writing is hard for me. But I know that I could write comics, They come naturally now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably still would.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm not saying I've got any plans.
Okay.
Next up is another novel, and then we'll think about another comic.
I was going to ask, if we talk about the language, I mean, the language in comics and the language in novels, of course, what's the primary goal you have? You're going for the genre? You're going for the word itself is what calls you in any case, playing with the words, playing with the structure?
Yeah, exactly that. It's getting the words in a pleasing order. Getting a rhythm that is a bit musical, that, will hook somebody on a subconscious level and draw them through the story by the beat that the thing's got. And that's a lot of what comics writing is about, is getting the rhythm that marries to the image, and, carries you through the page without you being aware that that's what's happening. Comics is an ultimate sort of poetry in lots of ways, because you have to distill everything down into a very few words, enhanced and multiplied, the effect multiplied by the visuals, obviously. But I always people have criticized my writing in the past as being, frustrated novelist trying to squeeze into a comic or whatever. To some extent that's true. I've had a few wordy captions here and there, but even in dialogue stuff, like most of Outlaw Nation was dialogue rather than interior narrative. Lost my thread now. But yes, it's the words. And that's my maxim with novels particularly is one word after another until you reach the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how I do it. I've got a vague idea of what the story's about. I've got a good feel for the environment and the character, but I really don't know what's going to happen. I start it right. I find a place. I did it with comics as well. I find a place to start from. 2 characters, conversation, situation, whatever, and one thing leads to another. And a story is, to me, laid out before you. It's this sort of, it's like a map. You've got a place you want to get to, and you've got a million different routes by which you can get there. You set out on your preferred route, a distraction crops up, a diversion. You step off that way. Oh, there's something else interesting, and that's, you kind of end up meandering until you get to the point that or close to the point perhaps that you were hoping to get to in the end. And that's the fun of it. I mean, I've seen, for example, I mentioned Alan Moore earlier. I mean, I've seen some of the schematics for, comic books that he's proposed, and it's like they're nailed down. He'll have a huge chart as big as the wall of his house, with squares on it, and it will tell you what happens and how this links to what happens in 100 issues time or something like that. No, that doesn't work for me, because I'd be bored mindless before I'd even started. It's flying by the seat of the pants is what makes me want to do it. I get in there, start, think, right, I'm in this shit now. How the fuck do I get out of it? How do I bring all these threads together and make it satisfying to a reader on some level, and to me, because I'm the one that I'm entertaining.
You were talking about...
I forget the reader, really, I suppose, while I'm writing it.
Yes.
Is this satisfying me intellectually and emotionally? Is it making me laugh? That's the beauty also of writing novels for myself and publishing them myself, because it doesn't really matter ultimately if anybody buys them or not. I'd love them to buy them. I'd love as many people as possible to read them and enjoy them. But really, I'm writing them for me.
That's what the other thing that brought to my mind. You just talk about the music, and it really sounds to me that when you're writing something in your head, you're composing something, because you're talking about the flow, about where it takes you. You're composing a thing, you're composing a theme, and the theme can start with the guitar. You think about the riffs, but suddenly that riff takes you to oh, I could need a piano here, or I could need, variations. And that also takes me to think that flow sometimes makes your characters to turn back to you, not literally, of course, but you know what I mean, turn back to you and say, no, that's wrong. We need to go in this other direction. Does it happen or not?
Yeah, I mean, my characters lead me a merry dance around the story. I'm trying to control them on one level. Part of me is trying to control them, and they're resisting that. They've got lives of their own, and they've got thoughts of their own, and they'll let me know what they are. And then I think, oh, fuck, now it doesn't fit. Okay, I've got to adapt. Because you're not quite who I thought you were, or you've just said something surprising and outrageous, and I didn't want you to say that, but you've said it, and now I've got to deal with that in terms of the story, and that's going to inject some drama. So probably it's a good thing. Yeah, I'm not a planner. Sometimes I wish I could be a planner, but I've never been a planner in any aspect of my life. What happens.
Yeah.
That's why when people describe you as having a career, I mean, the only sense of career that I have is careering from one post to the next, and sort of swinging around it. I mean, I never set out. I never had it. I mean, if you look at, say, somebody like, say, Neil Gaiman, for example, you can look at Neil's history as a writer and the work that he's done, and you could probably plot out Neil's grand plan with the evidence of the work that he's done. And I respect that and admire it in lots of ways. I've never had a grand plan. I'm incapable of engendering any kind of plan. So everything I've done is random. Somebody will phone me up, say, Jamie, do you want to write a Manbat story? And I'm like, who the fuck is Manbat? Art Young will say, oh, well, he was this, da-da-da-da-da. Will you do it? Yeah, okay. And then I do it, and then I write a Manbat story. It doesn't come out for 5 years, but that's besides the point. So yeah, it's random, and I like that about my life.
Yeah, but also we're talking about, the characters wanting to deviate or angry or arguing with you about a situation, etc. That's also something I love, because I see in many cases many writers who just want to push the original idea, whatever happens, and you can notice it doesn't work. If you know what I mean, you're reading a story, the story is taking you in a path, then it deviates, but then you see that it comes back to the original route, and you can notice where the character said, no, I'm going to impose my will, I'm going to stick to the original plan, and I'm not going to deviate. And then it's what you say, this doesn't work. You need to follow your instinct, you need to go with the flow, right?
Well,
If
yeah,
you
I guess
idea,
I guess I'm much more of an anarchist god.
Uh-huh.
I'm much more of an anarchist god when it comes to my relationship with my characters. You know, I'm trying to encourage them, not govern them.
Mm-hmm.
I want the creativity comes from every direction. I know it's all in my fucking head intellectually,
yeah.
But you know, when I'm in there, those people are alive. You know, when I'm in the world of Lepus, in his sort of chaotic future, near future, alternate reality England, that's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, while I'm most of the time that I'm writing it, you know, I might surface to say hello to the wife and have some food or something like that. But
yeah,
I am inhabiting that reality and sharing it with the characters who I've peopled it with. Quite often, you know, I'll introduce a character early in a story just because I want somebody for the lead character to speak to or say something to, and then I'll forget about them again. And then somewhere near the end, I'll think, shit, that character was there and they said that. And that was obviously because of that. And then it starts to make sense. You know, so it's quite a weird mystical experience for me writing a story. And I sometimes hesitate to describe them as stories. You know, they're kind of picaresque. You know, it just sort of goes along. You know, I'm dipping into a world and telling you little bits about it. But if it was a story, surely I should know what happens when I start, and I don't. So,
no, not necessarily. You know, it's
I'm not an analytical thinker, so I you know, the critics are the ones that should describe what I do. But to me, that is the only way I know. You know.
Yeah, not necessarily, because there's some writers, as you know, that what matters to them is the destination, not the journey. I've always been a guy that I'm more interested in the journey that I am in the destination, and it seems in your case it's more or less the same. It's what pushes you to continue to do it is the journey. You know, what you can find in the middle, what you can discover about yourself, not only about the story, about yourself, about the story, about the characters. And other people just cares about the destination, and that's where you can see the grand plan from the beginning.
There's a saying in English, I don't know if there's an equivalent in Spanish, that it's always better to travel hopefully than to arrive.
Yeah.
And,
es mejor tener esperanza que lo que te encuentras al final. Yes.
that's kind of how I am. You know, I'm you know, it's a bit like sex writing. You know, it's a lot of hard work and energy, and then when you get to the end, you know, it's all over.
Yeah,
again.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it. That in many cases, I could find it boring to just
painting by numbers.
Yeah, that exactly. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I know every single step. Now I got to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
For me, that would be like, Jesus Christ, that's boring. It's just going back to school and they tell you, you know, write this essay of 5 pages about Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Okay, I know the story, so I can go in 5 pages. I know how to divide my essay. But then I think, okay, what's the original part on that? What's the creation on that? If you already know all the details from the beginning to the end and you stick to them.
Sure. I mean, that said, when you're working collaboratively with either another writer or an artist, and definitely with an editor, I mean, I wouldn't want to give the wrong impression. You've got to have some idea of a story to propose to an editor to get them to agree to actually produce the thing. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, once you've done that, all bets are off. You know, you might start where you said you were going to start or something, or you might not. But, you know, you've got to rely on being able to write it well enough to overcome any resistance of people saying, well, that's not what you said you were going to do. Well, it is more or less.
Yeah.
You know, and it's more fun now. But yes, you've got to be able to visualize something coherent and persuade somebody that you've the ability to pull it together, but abandoning that plan.
Yeah, in a way,
You know.
just in the way.
No plan. What's the other saying? No plan survives first contact with the enemy. You know? And the enemy is the keyboard.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In a way, you sell them on the concept. This is the concept. This is what you guys want me to do. And from then on, you just flow and go with the story. But the concept, you are not lying at all, because you are working on the concept they approve, right?
Yeah, and I mean, after the first 3 or 4 years of writing comics, then you tend to assume that any editor that asks you to do something knows basically what it is you do. If you want a robot who writes Batman, then employ them. If you want me to do something, then I do what I do. Sounds cocky, but
no, it's not cocky at all. It's if they hire you, they know what to do. They know what you do. That's the reason they hire you, right? If then,
I hope so.
Why
else would they do it?
But that should be the case. It's like it's like bringing a player to a football team to play midfield, whatever, defend the midfield, and then you ask him, "I need you to get 10 goals per season."
Yeah,
and you're like, "No, you hired me as a defensive midfielder." Yeah, but now I want that. Okay, so then go hire somebody else. I know it's not a good metaphor, but
I understand exactly. It illustrates the point. It illustrates the point.
And what about the difference between your work solo? You have the images on your head. Of course, you have anything else for the novels. But have you ever felt betrayed when you got the pages back from an artist? And not betrayed, like, oh my God, he did it on purpose. He wanted to fuck me, to screw me, back. This is what I envisioned, and what I got back was the opposite. Or
no, maybe I've been really lucky.
Surprised better word than betrayed in this case.
Maybe I've been really lucky in my experiences with artists, but honestly, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever had any major disappointment. I mean, there's been a couple of misunderstandings here and there, like when I described somebody as a West Indian, meaning they come from the Caribbean, and you actually got somebody in Hindu dress from the west of India.
Okay.
And there was a mysterious red Indian that turned up in an early episode of Hellblazer that the Filipino artist, his name escapes me, Inca, somehow misinterpreted, and I can't even remember what the original input was, but they're minor, tiny little things that just make you laugh. But no, I really am lucky. I don't think I've had any sort of art robots, just sort of scrawling whatever they fancied to do. Usually the way I always preferred to work was anyway that I would present the script to the artist via the editor. The artist would do some pencils, and then we'd come back and talk and, sort of nudge things around, and I'd adjust dialogue, and we might adjust the perspective on a shot or something like that. It's a collaborative thing. And if it's working right, there shouldn't be any off goes the script. Back comes the art 10 minutes before it's printed. No chance to do anything to it. And maybe I've just always managed to pitch it enough that my script gives enough interest to the artist and engages his own or her own creativity enough that they do something good.
Yeah.
I've gotten good results from my scripts in the main with people that I've really enjoyed working with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a pleasure when you get the first look at the art that your words have inspired in somebody else's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a new perspective on, when you can have a visual imagination, and I can see the picture, and I can see the action going on that I'm taking a slice through and asking the artist to take a slice in time through. But I'm not seeing it in that detail and that clarity. It's more of a feeling than it is a thing. So when you actually see it, you think, shit, that's what they look like. And then it concretizes it for you, because otherwise you've got this face that's really just a name, okay, if it's an established character like Constantine, Batman, something like that, yes, you know roughly what they're going to look like. But, you know, when it's a walk-on part for somebody who you've just that minute invented, you don't really know what they're going to look like. So you try to suggest what they might look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually try to do that emotionally and by what they're saying and how they might react to something. And then if you've got an artist with any emotional intelligence, they'll pick that up and they'll reflect it for you. And so, it's, yeah, no, I'd say 99 times out of 100, it's an absolute joy. And occasionally a little bit of, oh, well, you haven't really bothered to read that properly, never mind, kind of thing, you know.
But so the part that probably interested you the most in that collaboration with an artist was the synergy, you know, to find
That's exactly the thing. That's what comics is all about.
To get him to get your thoughts, your concepts, and then intellectually, you know, that interest to get what am I going to get back?
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole point of comics, isn't it? It is a synergy. It's, you know, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yep.
You know, everything combines together, and you get this reaction that is, you know, a joint piece of work. I get fed up with this sort of. I see it from time to time on Twitter. Oh, the letterer doesn't get enough credit, money, whatever. The artist is the one in charge. No, the writer's the one in charge. No, the editor's the one in bollocks. You know, you're all there to do the best you possibly can to put something in front of people who are expecting to be intrigued and entertained. And anyway, you know, it's just a thing that bugs me.
No, absolutely. It's a team. And that's also something that really bugs me about cinema in the last 20 years. The auteur thing, you know, was before it was, you know, all the credits for everybody. But now you see a movie or a film by whatever, Steven Spielberg or whatever. And he always bugs me to no end. It's like, a film by... No. The film was made by 400 people. He's the director. I understand it's the biggest responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But it's not his film. It's not a film by. It's by all that people.
But they're always looking for something to sell. So you've got to put a brand on it. And if you put Steven Spielberg brand on it, that works for however many million people around the planet to say.
Yeah, but you're going to say his director.
I know. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's why it's done, isn't it? You've got to brand it with something.
Yes. Let me close WhatsApp because somebody's writing to me. When you
multitasking, I need your undivided attention.
Fuck it. Yes, of course, you deserve that and more. So when you were writing comics, in terms of the artist, what's the way you let me say it this way. I want to keep his attention. I want to keep him interested. I want to keep him, you know, on my side, not bored. That's what you try to do with yourself, you know, when you do the novels. But how did you do it with the artist?
Same way, really. I mean, writing a script is the panel descriptions, the art direction, call it what you want. That's a creative art form in itself. You know, I want to write something that engages the artist's imagination. So if I write prose, I'm trying to engage the reader's imagination. So I approach it in exactly the same way, generally speaking. You know, okay, some panel descriptions might only be one line because that's all it needs. But, you know, and I'm not an Alan Moore who writes 4 pages for each panel. You know, but yes, I'm trying to write nicely. Okay, it won't be fully punctuated. It'll be, you know, shorthands and stuff like that because it's a script. It's it's not for publication. But I still want to. I'll put jokes in it. I still want to entertain the person that's having to read it, editor, artist, whoever. Because once you've done that, they're on your side. You're working together then because you're inhabiting the same imaginary space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I write. I mean, I have thought of my novels to some extent. They're very as kind of scripts without the pictures. You know, they work on that level. You know, I don't write dead straight prose. I think I'm probably incapable of it. One of my conceits with the Lepus novels is that there are no commas in the narrative text at all, and it's all in the present tense, which is a bit comicky. You know, I play games with myself
Mm-hmm.
when I'm writing and establish little rules and things within the text that only I'm probably aware of and observing, you know, the use of certain punctuation points or not, and, you know, so on and so forth. And that gives my sort of more undisciplined prose a kind of inherent structure that I can recognize at least, and I'm conforming to.
Mm-hmm. I lost your image. You're like frozen to me, but I can hear you. So
Still moving on the monitor. My little thing in
okay.
the corner.
Okay, if that's fine. If people can see you, that's fine.
Hang on a minute.
So let's see if okay. Let's go with people and their questions. If you're okay with that, so they don't feel ignored by us.
Of course. Am I moving now?
No, it's frozen, but doesn't matter. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I think I see you frozen on Jitsi, but at the same time I see you moving on YouTube. So I don't know. It's maybe a glitch of the program. So
Okay.
that's fine. Now your camera is disconnected.
Oh, sorry.
Let's try to connect it back and see.
You back?
No, it's black.
Shit.
It's black. I don't know why it's
It
black.
should be all right because I've just clicked start camera again.
No, now it's on black and says camera lost. And on YouTube, yes, on YouTube I can see you. Doesn't matter. It's probably a glitch of Jitsi.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. So, let's go with the questions. Angel Perez said, "Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to the master of irony and cynicism, the father of Hellblazer, and one of the best writers in the industry. And of course, thanks, David, for a great host." Well, thank you.
It's very kind. Thank you very much.
Let me see. Gore Vidal says, "Oh, hello, Berenjena. Hello, Felipe Berl. Hello, Gonzalo Araya. Hello, Angel. Hello, everybody." Okay. Gore Vidal, Mr. Delano, I read Hellblazer when it was released. Over the decades, I've reread your Constantine stories with more admiration after each new reading. Your final issues are wonderfully painful.
What can I say? But thank you very much. I'm really glad you appreciated them.
Herman Ample says, Constantine is probably mad. You say Constantine or Constantine?
You know what to say, David.
Anyway,
what was the fucking movie called?
I don't remember what the movie was called. I always said
it was called Constantine, and it was wrong.
Okay, so it's Constantine. That's it.
It's Constantine, yeah.
Okay, Constantine. I always said it both ways, so you know that's Constantine.
It doesn't matter ultimately. It's not a thing that anybody should really sweat about one way or another. When Moore invented the character, he invented John Constantine.
That's it. If we invented it, Constantine it is. It's not Superman, it's Superman, so it's Constantine. Whatever. Stupid comment. Germán Ample Duran. Constantine is probably my favorite character. How was the wait, Jamie, you're black again. And on YouTube too.
What can I do?
What do you think about switching
log off and log on again?
Yeah, please log off and log on again and see if this fixes it, please. I will wait. People will wait. Let me drink. Dejadme ver un poco, chicos. A ver si se recupera porque su imagen primero se ha congelado. First it was frozen and then... Yes, there you are.
Animation.
You're back. I can see you again.
Good.
I use the time.
I won't touch anything.
No. That wasn't. It's always Ted. Ted hates us. It's never us. They want to conquer the world and kill us all, the robots. So whatever. Okay, so Germán Ample Duran was saying Constantine is probably my favorite character. How was the process for you of creating the base of all his world and his context?
Hard work, as I remember. I mean, it was a long time ago now. I think 1986, I actually started writing the first words toward what became, the ongoing Hellblazer series. At the time, I fondly imagined that if we got to 12 issues, I'd be doing well. But as it turned out, we did better. I took it very seriously. I mean, I lived John Constantine for 4 years, pretty much from the moment that I woke up, my first thought would probably be about whatever was going to happen that day as regards the writing of Hellblazer, which quite often would just have been lying about on the sofa, smoking too much dope, drinking too much coffee, trying to actually get some first words down on the page. Then sort of a week from the end of the month when it was due or something, I'd actually get going and be launched into it. But it was hard. I was quite involved in it. It was quite emotionally grueling, I found, writing Hellblazer, which was why ultimately I gave it up after 4 years, because I thought, I don't want to be this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it might get me if I don't watch out. So I thought I'll look away and do something else.
It was as draining as it looked to me, as a reader. At least it looked. I always try to put myself. The main reason probably I do this channel, to put myself in the other side, in your side. And you always look, with the politics, the commentary, the political commentary, and all the stuff you included in there. I always thought, shit, this must be draining emotionally and intellectually draining every month in and every month out. Was it like that, or I'm just exaggerating?
No, it was a bit like that. I was putting a lot of the real world that I was living in there. That was what made it worth doing to me. Okay, it was ostensibly a horror story about a sort of Jack the Lad magician from Liverpool who, got out of scrapes by the skin of his teeth all the time. But the world that I put him in was the one that I shared.
Mm-hmm.
And, things that happened in my world happened in his.
Yeah.
And so some of the misery of the Thatcher years, etc., were obviously being transferred into this piece of fiction and reflected around the world through it. So it was double pain as far as I was concerned. I was living it and writing about it.
Yeah. Stupid question.
Go on then.
It's Constantine and gin and tonic, or Constantine and Guinness?
It's Constantine and gin and tonic. Fucking Ennis and his Guinness.
Yeah, I always make fun of Garth with that.
Yeah, well,
he
just had to do it, didn't he? He had to do it.
Yeah, you kill Constantine, with the Guinness things. Like, no, he should. It's the guy in a bar. No, that's you. That's not him.
Guinness well, yeah, gin and tonic was me, to be fair. So, Constantine reflects facets of this creator at every turn, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And that's one of them. I hate the fact that he drank Guinness and that filthy tarmac. It's horrible stuff. You need a knife and fork to drink it with, But I could take it. I wasn't. Seriously cross.
He told me he had to, after your Amazing run, and he kept saying it. He said the only thing is people is going to buy this if I do the, the biggest, craziest thing. Let's just fucking kill him and drink Guinness. So he just did it.
He did it. Garth does stuff like that.
Yeah, he tends to. So let me see. Germana also asked, did Alan watch over the series Hellblazer? Or let you have your full freedom to do whatever you want after
For the first 4 or 5 issues, Alan was an advisor in the background. We were good friends back then. It was, I guess, largely down to his sort of whispering in people's ears that I got the chance to do a proposal for a few issues to get the series off the ground in the first place. So I wouldn't say he was overseeing it. He was there for advice on the character and stuff like that. But couple of little things he suggested here and there, but overall it was mine, and he'd read the script and he'd sort of just do that inscrutable thing that he does. That was back when we were still friends. We fell out quite early on, or stopped being close friends quite early on. I think before the end of Hellblazer, if I remember rightly, which was a great shame, but one of those things that happens in life. But yes, no, I was conscious that it was Alan's creation and always have been. So I wouldn't want to do anything that would, disrespect how Alan felt about it. But he never expressed any misgivings about what I was doing, and was complimentary here and there as well. So, I just pressed on after that.
Was it
most of Alan's advice, to be fair, was on the techniques of writing comics. Things to pay attention to and stuff like that I probably wouldn't have noticed without his experience there to, inform me. And I did a lot of that learning from other artists. I mean, Alan Davis, right in the beginning with Captain Britain, I learned an awful lot about graphic storytelling from him. And David Lloyd as well is another person who I learned a lot from in terms of storytelling.
For you, Constantine always looked like Sting, or you didn't care at all?
I don't give a monkey's fuck what he looked like, to be perfectly honest.
I
mean, I know he was supposed to be based on Sting in that old television program from the early 1980s or 70s or whatever it was. What was it called now? Brimstone and Treacle.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the original inspiration for John Constantine, but that doesn't matter what the original inspiration was or what the visual inspiration was. It's what you put inside him and what you make him do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Ecology was central in many of your comics. Which role does it play in your life?
I'm not an activist in ecological matters. I'm a supporter of Extinction Rebellion, and I think we're on a toboggan downhill into hell as far as the environment is concerned. And I don't really see, in the same way that we're on a toboggan down into a hell of fascism, that we're populism. I don't really see quite how we're going to get out of it, other than go through it. I think we're going to have to just wait for the impact and see what crawls from the wreckage and decide whether to worship it or kill it. It's not looking great. I wish, in some ways, I'm glad that I'm, in my mid to late 60s and not 20, because I think, younger people have got an awful lot of shit to get through before it looks good again, if it ever does.
Yeah, we're living a fucking fucked up world to her.
Yeah, absolutely.
My daughter is 6 years old, as you know.
It's as bad as it can get.
And I keep thinking about that, like the world we are living to them,
Yeah, and it's mainly my generation who've allowed it to get to the stage that it's got. I mean, we've just let the right wing steal a march. They got up earlier, they drank more coffee, they seized the technology of the 21st century, and they put it to fucking savage use.
Yeah.
And we didn't. Our side was too busy,
Yeah, I would say it's the same
lying
thing.
about feeling smug and pleased with itself because we allowed gay marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we saw everything solved, gay marriage, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, it's absolutely a good thing. But it's, while we were worrying about that, the right was on manoeuvres, setting up the technocracy that they've got control of now, to subvert. I mean, lots of the shit that they're subverting needed subverting, but it needed subverting by some, people with a moral conscience.
Yeah, with
fucking libertarian twats.
Yeah.
Who've only in it for themselves.
Yeah, so, I always think the same way. While the left, in a way, let's say, call it the left or progressive, whatever you want to call it, we keep arguing to each other, what's the best way to do it? The right is doing the duck step.
Just goes and does it.
They just don't care. It's like, well, it's best. It's fucking, let's do it. Let's take control.
Yeah. And that's what they're doing. That's why, I mean, in this country, everybody's sort of howling about Boris Johnson, and, well, half the population is howling about Johnson and his government, and they're riding roughshod over international law and domestic law and whatever else, and acting as if that's just carelessness or incompetence or something that's driving them to do that. It's not. It's the opposite. It's calculated subversion.
Yes.
It's like with the regulations surrounding COVID and, quarantine and lockdown, what you can do, what you should do, what you can't do. They've deliberately undermined every message that they've put out. It's not carelessness or incompetence that's causing confusion. It's a deliberate policy to make everything uncontrollable by anybody except them if they want to. And they don't, because all they want to do is reap profit from it. Political profit and financial profit for all their supporters who are, hiding in hedge funds in, big buildings.
Yeah, it's amazing, when people this week when they said they were going to defy international treaties and how bad the deal with the European Union was, I was like, wait a minute. 6 months ago, he was saying exactly the opposite. Like, this is so calculated. Like, okay, next step, we'll defy what we signed, and it will say it's bad, and we'll say we've always said it was bad. So
which I mean, they can do that, but the UK or what's left of it will just find itself then as an isolated nation. Okay, we'll respond to our own domestic laws. Parliament will be sovereign, our law will be sovereign over all the rest, but everybody else will say, well, fuck you, enjoy yourselves then, play on your own.
Yeah.
And us poor saps are going to be locked in with them, with the maniacs, are going to be at their mercy.
Well, you will leave before that. Most of you will say, fuck off, we're off this island.
Where are we going, mate? Where are we going?
Anywhere else?
If I was 30 years younger, I'd be gone long since.
I can tell you a lot of people younger than you is telling me, that they're moving out of the UK, or especially, out of the US in case if Trump gets reelected. I can tell you more than 10, 20 people I know in comics have told me, how can we get to Europe? And of course they say Europe except the UK. And they speak English, but it's like, why am I going to leave United States and go, to this...
To a parallel imitation of it.
It's not the same shithole situation, but you know what I mean? It's like, why am I going from a place that is wrong to another one that is wrong?
No, I agree. I don't know. It doesn't look good.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Good to say about it.
Let's always keep hope. Anyway, Berenjena Atomica, this is Atomic Aubergine, believe it or not, that's his name. Mr. Delano, would it be possible for you to talk about a bit? Oh, you already said that. I'm sorry, Berenjena, he already answered this. How did you came to write Hellblazer? And do you think? Oh, this is a good one. And do you think that your stint on that book has stood the test of time? I'm a big fan of your work, by the way.
It's not. It's for other people to judge, really, whether or not it stood the test of time. I guess I'd like to think so.
Yes, it did.
I'd like to think that a lot of the stuff that we were talking about, back in the late 80s, early 90s, is relevant now. I think it's a lot of it's coming round again, with bells on. So yes, I'd like to think so. And I mean, I can't claim to have read Hellblazer throughout the entire intervening period from me finishing to date. I've dipped in from time to time just to see where things are going. And latterly, I hadn't looked at it at all for years. But then Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell started working on it. And I did take a look at that. And I did like that a lot. I felt that was, the John Constantine that was for today what the John Constantine that I was writing for 1988 or whatever was. And I'm just a bit narked that it's not to continue.
It's fun. It's fun in a way. Fun to reread your Hellblazer stuff now and think that what it looked, like an exaggeration back then, it doesn't now.
It wasn't really an exaggeration back then.
What?
I mean, yes, it was it was politics as a horror story and analogous in that respect, but there were allegories in it and so on and so forth. But it was a bad time in England back then, and it's a bad time now.
Yeah.
It was mildly alleviated for a few years in between, but generally it's shit all the time, isn't it, really? We have to admit that life on Earth is a trial for most people most of the time.
Yeah. Gonzalo Araya says, World Without End was the first non-superhero comic I ever read. It holds a very special place in my heart. Thank you for so many great stories, Mr. Delano.
Well, that's very kind of him to remember World Without End. That was a weird one. I still sort of ambivalent towards World Without End myself. There's many aspects of it that I really like, including John Higgins's fantastic painting and his sort of realization of completely far out world and landscape. I think it was a little bit over ambitious here and there in inventing a new dialogue style for the lead character to speak in, this sort of weird phonetic English that I deployed in it. Might have been pushing it a bit much, but I'm reasonably fond of that, and I'm grateful to your correspondent there for mentioning it.
That was a really amazing. It was an amazing experiment. I loved it, but for what it was, for me at least, I thought this is a crazy experiment, and I love it.
It was a crazy experiment, yeah. And I was, again, where else in comics would I have got the chance to do that than Karen Berger's DC Vertigo at the time,
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened.
World Without End was originally published by Vertigo, or was a DC?
I can't remember. I think it was still DC. I think it was before Vertigo kicked off. I mean, it was what became Vertigo. That's how it. There is a really lovely hardback edition, collected edition of it available from Dover Books, but from the amount of correspondence from the New York District Attorney's office that I've been getting recently, I believe Dover Books is now no more. I think they've gone into administration.
Oh, so you just
bankruptcy, but there may still be copies of the book out there.
Okay, let's hope so. But you,
sorry,
no, I said that people can still order it, right?
I think so. I think it's still available via the big platforms and things, but I believe the company has gone bankrupt, who were the reprint company. So,
and you have the rights back. You get the rights back then, right?
I guess we must do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really looked into it, but if they've gone bankrupt, then they don't have the rights anymore.
Yeah, of course. Let me see. La Berenjena Atómica. Okay, this is a good one because I wanted to ask you. Could Mr. Delano talk a bit about his Lupus books in print, please? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I've talked a little bit about them already, I guess. It's like a personal project, really. The whole. Basically, I said, didn't I, that it was my ambition from an early age to write novels, and I went back to it. 8 or 9 years. I can't even remember when I wrote the first one. I just sat down and wrote a novel. It was a novel called Book 13. And it was in no way based in reality, but featured an aging genre writer struggling against some kind of block that was preventing him from writing the last in the series, a very popular series of novels featuring a occult detective character called Lepus, spelled Leepus, and the background to the story was this aging writer's unruly family circumstances and life in general, and it was a black comedy, and I really enjoyed it. And once I got into it, I thought it turned out pretty good, but I sort of lacked the confidence to perhaps. Or just wanted to keep ultimate control, combination of the two. So I didn't send it to any publishers or agents or whatever. I just thought, fuck, the technology exists. I can make this myself. I can set up an imprint. I can design the book. I can make a cover. I can print it, and I can get it sold wherever, which is great if you're good at marketing. I'm not. So... The books exist. So I wrote that anyway. That done. I then thought, right, maybe I should write something a little bit more genre, because I did that under a pen name, Andrew William James. And I thought, well, nobody knows who the fuck that is anyway. So the next one that I do should perhaps be under my established writing name of Jamie Delano, and perhaps be a little bit more genre. So I wrote this thing which I'd hesitate to describe it, the landscape it's set in, as dystopian, because everybody says that and I'm bored with dystopia, because that implies that living in that reality would be in some ways worse than the deranged reality we're all currently living in. And I think it probably would be better in lots of ways. It's a bizarre anarcho near future England where the eponymous lead character, a cranky old sod of advanced but indeterminate age, who vehemently denies any hint of a past existence as a fiction writer, explores and manipulates an anarchic environment which exists sort of post an undefined apocalypse or confluence of apocalyptic events known as the reduction. So there's a lot less people about in England for a start, which is a good thing. The fewer people around me at the moment, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So an awful lot of them have died out for whatever reason or another. While the England of the Lepus books is not the England outside my door, it's a weird compound of many Englands, past and present, exhibiting elements of diverse cultural eras from prehistory through medieval to near future, all in this sort of messed up place, basically, that's trying to sort itself out, and little political groupings, tribal groupings, racial groupings, allegiances, alliances, etc., are all going on, and this lead character navigates his way through them, trying to do the best he can as he goes along his way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like much of my work, it's a black comedy, a sort of picaresque adventure with, you know, metafictional subtexts. I'm not good at describing things, am I? I mean, anyone confused and unsure whether they'd risk a few quid on the basis of that description is welcome to download and hopefully enjoy, free of charge, mind you, or obligation, an audio edition of the first Lepus novel, Dizzy, which I sort of stumbled through. And that's up on the Jamie Delano page of the Lepus Books website.
Mm-hmm.
And you can download it for free and listen to it for 9 hours if you can manage to stay awake. So help yourselves, everybody. That's gratis.
Yeah, but we'd rather have.
If you like that, you can chip in a donate.
Yeah,
no, you can buy the next one. You know,
just buy the books. We would like you to buy the books.
Yeah, I'd like you to buy the books, but at the same time, I'm happy I've written them whether you buy them or not. So, you know, the choice is there. There's one for free if you want to listen to it, or you can pay the money by whatever medium you want and get them. And if you like, I would say that anybody who liked Hellblazer and my take on Constantine will probably like the lead. And there's nothing in common with the two, except for the fact that I wrote them from a certain part of my psyche. And people that liked my Constantine will probably like the Lepus books.
Did you get the books translated to any languages or not?
Only Italian.
Mm-hmm.
An Italian publisher's done an edition of the first one, Dizzy, that came out last month, I think. So if anybody wants to do a Spanish one, jump in. Give us a shout.
Any editors that are around, Spanish or any other places, translation French, blah, 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 that are around, guys, you gotta do it. Just so you know. Next, Felipe Brella asks, would Jamie do a comic adaptation of his Lepus books, and with which artist would he pick to draw it?
I thought about it. Obviously, it crossed my mind. And then I thought, if I do that, somebody's going to have to realize visually the lead character. And I kind of don't want that to happen. I mean, there's hints as to, you know, what he looks like and so on, but mainly the stories are told, you know, a bit like the Constantine stories when I wrote them, with an interior monologue and observations. And, you know, Lepus does this, Lepus does that, Lepus, etc. And it's kind of, you know, you or the reader inhabiting on one level. And I don't know if I want to show it. So, I mean, obviously you could, and obviously if somebody wanted to do the movie or something like that, and came along waving trainloads of money or something, then I'd have to think even harder about it. But it's a possibility. I've not discounted it, but I've got a reservation about it. There were a few years ago, they were doing novel adaptations of or novel realizations of Hellblazer. John Shirley, science fiction writer from the States, wrote a couple, I think, which were quite good. And I was peeved at the time that nobody had bothered to ask me if I fancied to write the prose version of Hellblazer. I don't know why I brought that up, except that it's the other thing in reverse.
Yeah, it's reverse. Yeah. It's connected. It's fine.
And I thought, maybe I would have liked to have done that. But then when I thought about it more, I thought, no, it's two different disciplines, and you've done one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody else wanted to write a movie of the Lepus novel or something like that, I'd probably say yeah. But it's not something that's on my cards. I've got to write another prose one. That's the next thing that's really starting to become imperative as far as I'm concerned. I've got to write a third one because there must be at least 3 Lepus books. I've decided for it to be a thing.
You need to finish the trilogy at least, right?
Yeah, it needs to be at least a trilogy. Yeah.
So Angel Perez, Mr. Delano, what do you think? Do you think this 2020 is worse than your vision of it in 2020 visions?
It's worse because I'm having to live here rather than yeah, I mean, it's a bit eerie. I mean, a lot of people have pointed out that particularly the first arc of the 2020 Vision series that I did with Frank Quitely, is set in it was actually antibiotic resistant bacteria who were the driver of the plague in the 2020 Vision story. And that was something that back when I wrote it in the mid 90s, I was quite aware of as a serious possibility for apocalypse in the world. And it still is, just because we've had this half-assed COVID-19 virus doesn't mean we can't get another bigger, worse, either antibiotic resistant bacteria or another virus of some sort doing even more damage. But, back then I thought, well, nobody's paying attention to this. Scientists were, virologists and bacteriologists, and people are quite well aware of it. And it's been bubbling away in the background ever since. But back then, I just thought it's going to be one of the things that heralds the apocalypse, disease, bound to be. And yes, and a few other things that I put in that story, sort of there are tendencies toward them at the moment. Mm-hmm. Later in the story, there's a sort of the Western element of the story, is sort of right-wing religious nutcases forming militia out in the Midwest, doing a lot of damage and causing havoc, hurting people and similar. And so, yeah, on one level, I feel, don't blame me. It's not my fault. I didn't make it happen, honestly.
It wasn't me.
I've started to be a bit worried because on sort of politics front, I called Brexit. That was going to happen. I called Trump. I knew he was going to get elected, and something else. I can't remember what, but I called 3 or 4 things that I'd rather not have been right about. And so now I'm deliberately avoiding any kind of prognostications. Mm-hmm. I'm not foretelling any possible futures other than my little, Lepus stories set in anarchic England, which is actually somewhere I wouldn't mind being in comparison to where we are now.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say no to that either. La Berenjena Atómica says, Mr. Delano, what are your literary artistic influences? Any particular authors, script or playwrights that you're fond of? Thank you very much.
I wish I could. I've been reading books since I was 10. I've read an awful lot of books, and who's influenced me? I've been influenced by everybody from, say, J.G. Ballard, particularly, probably an influence on my sort of disaster futurology style of thinking. William Burroughs, big influence, just because of the strangeness of his mind as much as anything else, and also his sort of literary acuity, something that I've admired. All the great detective writers, Marlowe, Hammett, people like that, Jim Thompson particularly. It's just so many, it just becomes a list. Robert Louis Stevenson, I had the childhood classics read to me when I was still in a cot, sort of sucking my thumb. It was my mother, God forgive her, who infected me with the word, right at an very early age. And, I just consumed up until I became a professional writer. And then, strangely, I largely stopped consuming because I'm probably going off on a tangent that's unnecessary here, but
I love tangents.
but now I've completely lost the tangent that I was going off on. What was I saying? Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Sorry. It's hot
It's
in
fine,
here.
it's fine. It'll come back. Germán Amplias, if you were on your 20s now, in these times, what would you write about?
I have absolutely no idea. I've no idea what. Well, I have. I've got a grandson who's in his early 20s at the moment, so I should have some idea of what it's like to be a 20-year-old. What would I write about? I think I would try to do what I did in visualizing the demented, deranged badness that's come upon us.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably try to visualize a way past that.
Mm-hmm. What's beyond?
Try to visualize the conflict that would be necessary in order to, arrive at some, beneficial reality beyond that which is we're going to have to go through now.
Yeah.
We're not going to avoid the shit that's coming. What we've got to look for is ways to, exploit that shit as a springboard into, something more hopeful for my 20-year-old grandson and my other younger grandchildren.
Yeah.
Who are going to have to live through that. Me, if I've got, if I'm lucky, I've got 20 years. So, I'm still going to be in the depths of it all, because it's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, right? We have to look about, we have to think about the beyond, right? What's beyond this shit? What rebellion are we going to need? Because
I always saw my writing as a warning.
Mm-hmm.
When I look for a horrible future to exist in, it was to say you don't really want to be here because this is what it'll be like. As it happens, I don't know if that's productive or whether by imagining these things you allow them to. I think they probably exist anyway without the power of my feeble imagination, but in some ways imagination is the most powerful creative tool there is.
Yeah.
If you imagine stuff, it can quite easily happen. So you're probably better in this time, and I might have been better trying to visualize in a dramatic and engaging and entertaining fashion a future that we might want to actually live in.
Yeah, that's the part that frustrates me the most, because I keep thinking that nobody is thinking about, as I said, the beyond. Nobody's thinking the world has changed. There's no way we come back to how it was before the pandemic. And nobody's thinking about that. They're all thinking, no, we have to go back to what it was. Like, no, we don't. We have
It's not going to happen. There is no way back.
Exactly.
Whether we, acquire some magical vaccine or not that protects us from this, there will be another one. And anyway, people have learned to live in a slightly different way, just on the level of office workers, for example. I mean, the government and all the landed gentry who own the big cities and draw massive freehold rents from all the office blocks that have been built there, etc. They're all desperate for everybody to get back on the train and get into the office, because otherwise the companies are going to give up their offices and they won't have any rents. But people have realized that why would I need to waste 3 hours a day in traveling on a jam-packed public transport system, rubbing shoulders with loads of disease-ridden fellow citizens, when I can do my job as I'm doing with you now, sitting here in an office in my home, quite comfortably. And when I've finished here, I can go downstairs and get my tea.
And especially the guys who have, I don't know how young your younger, grandchildren are, especially people like myself, like Paloma, for example, especially Paloma, because I've always worked in my office at home, but she's always worked outside. The time she's had with her kid is unvaluable. And if you say, you don't have to go back and forth, be 3 hours moving, to get to work and back. That's also hours that you can have with your kid.
I mean, that was one of the main luxuries of being a self-employed writer for most of my life. I've never had to do that, and I can't comprehend what a burden that must be on anybody's life, having to do that. Having to conform to those schedules. Haul your ass to the railway station, get on a fucking miserable train to a city, get off it, go to the office, and then start work. I mean, I find it hard enough to haul my ass up the stairs and turn the computer on to start work. You know, it's.
But
So
if,
I mean, not obviously not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the luxury of the sort of work that, can be done via a televisual interface or know, on the internet. Lots of people have got to go and wipe asses or, heal the sick or, dig holes in the roads and things. They can't do that. They haven't got that luxury. But I do think that the people that have got that luxury are going to want to exploit it and hang on to it.
Well, there's many people who, envy us in the sense of, oh my God, you can work at home, you can work their vision, you know how it is. You can work at any time, you don't have any, structure. Well, fuck it. No, we work like a lot more hours than you do because we have no office times. But now they, first they envied us. Now they are like, I don't know how you do it. Because now as I told
it requires discipline, doesn't it? As you know, David, it requires discipline, and it requires a certain sort of mindset. You have to be a bit introverted on some level and not forever craving the chatter of the water cooler or whatever the fuck that is. I don't even know what a water cooler is, let alone what people do around it. I mean, I've been doing this now since 1982. I've had a few proper jobs in my life, but not for an awful long time.
Yeah, as I told Paloma and others, when they were like, "Oh, how do you do it?" It's like, "Welcome to my world. Now you see how it works."
Yeah.
It takes.
It's different even if you're employed by somebody to work remotely. But when you're a self-employed person working remotely, I mean, I always used to say to people, you don't have holidays. When you're self-employed,
absolutely.
You just have periods of inactivity when you're feeling guilty for not working.
That's true. That's true.
So swings and roundabouts, but the liberty is all. Living by your own wits is worth a lot as well. If you have the luxury to be able to do that, I mean, that's why I've loved being a comics writer and any kind of writer, because all I have to do, all I've got is my brain connecting with my fingers, connecting with my keyboard, connecting with the world, the audience, and I have to rely on that brain working and doing the keyboard thinking to get that stuff down there. And that's stressful, but it's also really exhilarating.
Yeah, absolutely, because you need the discipline to get that freedom and to keep it, because if you don't have that discipline, you are not going to keep it. You are not. You are going to need to go back to an office job or whatever, because
McDonald's.
It's all connected, right? Angel Perez says, you brought us the Constantine in the Thatcher era. What do you think your Constantine would think and do about Theresa May, Brexit, or Boris Johnson?
Well, he wouldn't like either. I don't know what the hell he'd do about it. I mean, he'd think of something at the time. If you confronted him with Boris Johnson, he'd have some smart comment to make. He'd find a way of undermining him emotionally, or something. I don't know. Constantine's not really a direct activist, is he? He's more of a sort of he more sort of responds in his own inimitable way to readjust sort of situations that he finds himself in, power balances and so on and so forth. So it's a difficult one to answer, but he certainly wouldn't be a supporter of either of those things.
I think we can agree on that. Germán asks, which artist do you think has best captured what you have written?
I'm not going to even answer that. I'm not playing favorites. I appreciate the question, but I've worked with some great artists and people who are my personal friends through working with them. Steve Pugh, I've always really loved what Steve Pugh does with anything that I've done. David Lloyd, another one. Everybody who I've worked with is, it's a weird thing working with somebody collaboratively like that. It's a relationship, it's an instant relationship. So I'm not going to say that, I enjoyed that relationship with one person more than others, or, I enjoyed it with them all in different ways.
Yeah.
Same as all the different writers who've enjoyed relationships with Constantine have enjoyed them in different ways. And, as I said earlier when we were talking about art and disappointment and stuff like that, nobody's disappointed me. Everybody's brought something extra. And
Yeah.
that's, that's valued.
Yeah. Guys, stop asking about asking him to pick between man and dad. We don't do that. Okay. So I still ask, how was to you to work on the Animal Man book? See, you talk about Steve Pugh. They're coming with that. About to do the work in Animal Man after the Morrison run with that crazy ending he did.
Well, you see,
how did you get the idea of the Red?
I mean, again, as I was saying earlier about my random accidental career, I mean, I'd never read an Animal Man story in my life. I'd never read any of Grant Morrison's Animal Man or anybody else's, for that matter. And then Tom Pyer was editing Animal Man at the time, and whoever was writing it, whose name escapes me temporarily, Tom, who was the brother of Tom Veitch, I think, finished earlier than was anticipated his run on Animal Man. And Tom Pyer phoned me up. I think I'd just finished World Without End or something like that. Tom Pyer phoned up one evening and said, "Jamie, I'm in the shit. I've got nobody to write Animal Man. Will you do 6 issues to fill in?" And I said, "Tom, I know fuck all about Animal Man. I don't know what it is." And he said, "It's easy. He does this. He can have animal powers and so on." And I looked at a few issues. I said, "Tom, give me some representative issues that will give me some clues of what I'm working with and his family and stuff." I needed his family, obviously, because that was a big part of it. And off we went. And so how was it working? It was great. I really liked it because I didn't have very much emotionally invested in it at that point, because I didn't even know what it was. It wasn't like the Hellblazer experience where I was in his trench coat pocket, smoking his cigarette smoke, breathing it in. Animal Man was American. It was a different world, different superhero. I didn't really know anything about it, so it was all open to me. And then I thought, well, animals, vegetables, the green, the red, we'll use. We might as well try and keep a kind of shared cosmology going or something. And as I recall, I just turned it into this sort of black comic soap opera thing, and off we went. And, I just remember, for however long it lasted, feeling this is so relaxing, this is really enjoyable. And I loved what Steve Pugh did with it. And he helped me through it because he understood all of that kind of stuff as well. So he kind of made it work in his, in his joyful sort of caricature style that he deploys.
That's also that's a part I was going to ask about. Because the concepts that you had, you need the synergy. That's the synergy with
exactly that. Yeah.
You need an artist that could understand those concepts, because I don't think
he could understand the concept, but he could also modulate them, and make it work for the character, because he understood Animal Man and superheroes and all of that stuff far better than I'm ever going to. So and it worked. Yeah. So that was my Animal Man experience, and it lasted quite a while, longer than I'd anticipated, until Lou Stathis was editing it, I think, when I finally decided it was time to let go.
It's interesting to see that you just have finished World Without End, because World Without End could look like the experiment, and Animal Man the realization.
You think? I haven't looked at it from that perspective, but possibly, yeah.
I just,
I should be a critic.
Yeah, I just put it together, and it's like, maybe not in a straight way, but like the experiment that took you to use those.
Well, this is the writer's life, isn't it? You do something, and you get to the end of it or whatever, and you think, oh shit, I wish I'd done that, or wish I'd done it that way, but I didn't. So that's what it is. But the next time you might build on what you've learned, or something that's intrigued you about the way a certain thing has gone, and then that goes into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and it will, as I say, one word after another,
Yes.
until you reach the end, and there will be a big final end with a headstone over it one day. But until then, it's one word after another.
Yeah. Germán asks, Jamie, please tell Spanish editors to reprint Hell Eternal. Okay.
Hey, Spanish editors, reprint Hell Eternal, please.
Yep. Okay, that's it.
There was nearly a movie of that, but it didn't quite come off.
Oh. Well, it's still time for it to happen.
Maybe it's a bit dated now. Bit 90s. But, it was foreshadowing the, fascist populism.
Again.
Neo-Nazis, etc., etc.
No, a narcissist. Oh, no, we don't have narcissists.
And it was based on a true story, but...
Hell Eternal was based on a true story?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Okay, Gore Vidal asks, I agree that Mr. Delano wrote in the 80s isn't an exaggeration now, just like what Brian Talbot did in Luther as Wright or Alan Moore in B for Vendetta, just so you know. Are you reading, Germán asks, are you reading any comic books now? If not, which kind of entertainment do you consume on your free time?
I'm not reading regularly any comic books now. I read the occasional one that comes to my attention at random. I read a thing by Alex Packnadel not too long ago that I really enjoyed, which I can't remember the name of. I read a couple of the Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell Hellblazer that came out recently, but I'm waiting for the trade now to read the whole lot in one go. Other than that, no, I haven't really looked at any comics. Odds and ends, little bits of, things that independent people have done that I've come across at a convention, although I haven't done many of those recently. But no, I'm a bad consumer as far as media is concerned these days. What have I watched on the television? I managed to watch sort of most of one series of The Bridge, that Danish thing. That absorbed me for a while, but then it started to drag on a bit. I'm easily bored. That's my problem. I'm easily bored. I watch things at random if I'm a bit stoned and can't be bothered to play poker. I like to play online poker. That's one of my main forms of entertainment of an evening. If I'm not having a good run at poker or something, I might put the television on and find a movie to watch, or just at random. So I can't even remember what I watch, but that's just filler, really, and just to see what's going on out there.
I watch.
Really.
Go, please. No, please.
Right. You.
No, you're the guest. Go.
No, well, I have nothing really to add other than the odd thing grabs my attention. As I say, I watched quite a lot of that Bosch. Because something about it worked for me, something about the cinematography or the pace or the character maybe worked for me. Although his fucking phone, his ringtone on his phone was the same as mine. So every time the bastard's phone went off, which was quite a lot, I was reaching for mine, and I had to change it at the end.
Because you could drive me crazy. No, I was going to say that I watched The Bridge, the original, the American, as you know, and I agree with you. This first season it was brilliant, and then it was like, why did you keep doing this? But have you ever watched the American or just the
Swedish Danish one?
Just the Danish one. Okay, don't.
No, I haven't watched the American one.
They changed the ending of the first season, and it's a piece of crap. Let's be honest. Let's say it that way.
Did they have the autistic character, the detective?
I'm not going to spoil it for the people.
I'm not going to watch it. Oh,
no, not for you. For the people. It's not the same ending.
You can whisper it to me. No, you mustn't do spoilers. I know it's very.
I'm going to say
controversial, isn't it?
Yes. What you just said. That's it. I'm not going to details. Okay. Locke Frank Howard asks, what can you tell us about your experience with Captain Britain? Was it difficult for you to create new stories after what Alan did on the book?
I don't think it was difficult. The difficult part was that I'd never done a comic story before. I'd never done any sequential storytelling. I'm pretty sure that Captain Britain was the first, unless I did I do a Doctor Who before that? I don't think so. I think the first work that I did for comics was Night Raven prose stories, which were also illustrated by Alan Davis in spot illustrations, sort of noir style stuff for Marvel UK. And then they asked me to do Captain Britain. And I think that was my first sequential work. And I learned an awful lot. You know, Alan Davis was critical to making that work and teaching me how to tell a story visually. And I looked up, you know, I'd do the script and then I'd see what I did penciled out. And I thought, right, I get it, kind of thing. So that's the thing I remember most about that. And then going over to his hometown, scouring the reference library there for ancient mythology that we could pillage in order to get a story out of. Things that writers do, you don't have to do now. You just tap on the computer keyboard and all the information in the world is there for you. We had to go to Corby Central Library in rural Northamptonshire and sift through the mythology section of the shelves. And anyway, that's that. That was a long time ago.
Do you miss that? Do you miss the old writer's experience of having to search for reference and all that, go to libraries and all that?
I miss that thing where a book will just accidentally fall open and there's something there that you need, the sort of library angel, as I used to call it. But the same thing happens with the internet on a bigger scale. You know, you're looking for something, you find something else, and you think, oh yeah, that's relevant, you know, or not. So times change, and I don't hark for a more sort of artisanal past or whatever. You know, I live in the 21st century. I'm fully aware of that, and I'm not that nostalgic. There's shit in the past as well as the future. That's what I remember about Captain Britain: learning how to put pictures together to tell a story, being taught that by Alan Davis, by osmosis, working with him. But it does seem a long time ago.
I was going to say that I agree with you. I don't miss that part because they're complementary. I mean, you can still go to a library, search for books for fun, or just one day you want to do it that way because you just want to do it that way. You know what? We don't live in the past. I just say if we didn't have the internet and all that, we fucking miss it. So it's better that we have both, right?
You're dead right. And even my wife, who is a confirmed internet skeptic, when I bought her a smartphone, her world expanded, you know, and she appreciates it. You know.
Now I get it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You have to be shown what's there.
Exactly. Felipe Brel says the Dr. Crocodile story in Captain Britain still sticks in my mind. Pity the character has disappeared in the MCU. Okay.
Really, Dr. Crocodile. I've got an image popped into my head that must be a drawing by Alan Davis. But talking of Alan Davis, I must just. I've got. I don't know if you can see that. I've got 4 originals, Alan Davis originals, on my wall above the desk as we're talking.
Wow, I can see. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, it's just because it's there and we're talking about Alan Davis. That's a spot illustration from one of the prose stories, the Night Ravens prose stories that I've got.
I have one too.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's just
yours is nicer, but
mine's in a frame.
That's true. Dr. Crocodile. I'm sorry, Philip, I don't remember that story. Jamie's gonna kill me, but I don't remember.
No, I don't remember specifics of it either. I remember the name rings a bell, and I've got an image popped into my head, but I shall have to go back and look at that now, if I've still got those issues. Okay.
I thought that my door was closed and the dog was around, but it's open. Gonzalo, I don't want him to feel, like he's closed. Gonzalo Raya says, Berenjena Atómica. What Mr. Delano thinks about the demise of the Vertigo imprint a few years ago?
I'm very sad about it. As I say, I don't think I would have had any kind of enduring career in mainstream comics without the support of Vertigo, or without the home of Vertigo as a place that allowed my kind of creativity to flourish in any way. From all I hear, I see a dog.
Yeah.
From all I hear of other people's experience outside of that kind of rarefied atmosphere that we had going there for a while, I don't think I'd fit in. I don't take sort of firm creative direction very well. I don't mind being criticized. I don't mind being edited. I don't mind suggestions and what I've done and things, but I don't want to be told that this is the way this character's going to go. This is the way we like the stories to appear. I don't know. It wouldn't have worked. So I regret the demise of Vertigo very much. I did predict it. I said many years ago that if Hellblazer ever left Vertigo, it would be like the Ravens leaving the Tower of London, causing the decline of the British Empire, or the fall of the British Empire. And I kind of felt like that about Vertigo.
Fortunately, we have Karen doing the Burger Books line in Dark.
So I hear. I haven't seen any of them yet because I don't pay attention. But I'm very grateful that she's found herself a place to go and do what she does best.
Absolutely. Let's see, Mr. Delano. Do you think it is possible? Yes. It is possible to have another Vertigo imprint or era in these times, or is the medium too fractured to allow for that to ever happen again?
I don't know whether it's too fractured. What does it require? It requires financial support, I guess. So possibly you need, some, not corporation necessarily, but some structure with resources to support, work that may not immediately turn a profit. I don't know. I mean, people manage to set up, idiosyncratic, individualistic, good lines of comics. I mean, look at what, say, Tom Pyre and co are doing with Ahoy Comics. That comes out of the blue, independently financed, I presume. And they're doing great comics. They're doing the comics that they love to do, and it seems to be working. And I'm very impressed with that. I don't know what Karen's doing. I mean, I don't know if Karen's, if that's a sort of a Vertigo for our times by another name. I shall have to have a look at it one day. So it's not impossible. It can't be impossible. It may be more difficult. I mean, I think there was quite a bit of editorial or executive indulgence of Vertigo, because I can't imagine that most of what we did made a vast amount of profit, but it did provide, seed corn for credential to the medium, that then allowed other people, that then brought, the attention of other mediums, film, etc., etc., to comics, something's happening there. Things are a bit different. They might, what can we do? Oh, well, we'll do some superheroes. But I mean, it did. I think it got critical acclaim and some recognition that the medium was worth more than it might have been presumed to be before that.
Absolutely, gave reputation. It attracted a lot of names that wouldn't want to write comics in America if they could only do superheroes, etc. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the number of novelists who've dived in to start writing, to have their little crack at John Constantine, for example, or something, who probably wouldn't have bothered, had we not done that work in the first place.
Yeah, no,
more power to them. I'm glad to have them. I mean, I'm thinking of people like Denise Mina and Ian Rankin, people like that, great, really good writers in their own medium, who, we could have a go at that. Maybe we'll get some money for doing
it. Absolutely. Let's see. Gorbidal says, Mr. Delano, regarding your final Hellblazer story, The Magus, it read like a conclusion to John Constantine. Did you think the series was going to be cancelled? What are your thoughts about it, please?
I didn't really give it much consideration, to be honest. I wanted to bring my 4-year run to some kind of comprehensive conclusion, and I'd probably got a lot of plates spinning throughout those 4 years that I'd disregarded. And I don't know, I did what I always do. I went into the story, and and we ended up with Constantine with a dead twin in the womb, and all this strange, the golden boy stuff that was just something that was inside me that I found a way to express through that. I don't think I assumed that the series was finishing. In fact, I'm pretty sure I knew it wasn't. But I kind of thought, well, this is my Constantine finishing. It'll be Ennis's Constantine next. He'll animate the character through some facet of his own personality in the same way that I did. So I'm just doing what I do, and then I'll stop doing it and somebody else will start, and it's up to them if they want to do it like I did it or do it a different way. And it's no skin off my nose either way, because I can't be precious about this character. I don't own him. I may have animated him for the first 4 years, but more invented him. I gave him an aspect of personality. Somebody else will come and do that again and again and again as it transpired. I liked the way that last story turned out, except there is one section where I think some of the poetry was missed out by accident or something. But anyway, that's a minor niggle. And I like the Dave McKean art on it. And it wasn't, as it transpired, my last outing with Constantine. I did a couple of other things, including that Pandemonium with Jock in 2008, which was I knew that was my last Constantine story when I wrote it, because they asked me to do that as part of was it the 25th anniversary or something, and by the time we actually got round to commissioning it and doing it, that had all gone and been forgotten. But I related through that story back to the first story, and the fact that it was set in wherever we had that big fucking war. What was it called? Iraq.
Yeah.
The fact that it was set in Iraq and featured Nergal, the Assyrian demon that I'd introduced early on in the Hellblazer canon, the British Museum, which was one of the first scenes in Hellblazer #1. I realized that I knew this has got a circularity. This is where I'm finishing.
Yeah,
the character.
You wanted to close the circle, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that was my opportunity, and I thought, right, I've done that now. I shan't be going back again. Until then, I'd always thought every so often it was really nice just to slip on the trench coat again, and But then I thought, no, I think I'm over this now. I've got my own shit to do. I've done loads of other writing other than Hellblazer in my career. Probably, things that I like more as personal creations. And I'm now writing novels. Times change, eras pass, and Constantine still haunts me from time to time. He'll crop up here and there in some context or another, and I'll get a little frisson of recognition. Like I say, particularly when I saw some of that stuff that Si and Aaron were doing, because I really thought after a long time, there'd been a lot of quite hokey sort of Constantine stuff about, mainly called Constantine, that I wasn't particularly keen on at all. But you just ignore it as best you can and wish everybody luck. But then when they came along and started, I thought, that's who I know. So
nice. It's good that for a character you didn't create, for a character that you don't own, that you can come back to just close the circle. Then you can say, you know what, this is the last story I had in me, and I've been able to do it.
It was good. I appreciated it. Yeah.
Let me see. Gorbidal says Hellblazer by Delano, Doom Patrol by Morrison, and Sandman by Gaiman were unique works at the time. Audiences that didn't read comics read those books. I think they changed the industry. I agree with you. I think that's another big part of Vertigo. It attracted a lot of readers that wouldn't read comics.
That's right. To be fair, Gaiman did a lot of that with the Sandman stuff, and he went for the goths, didn't he? And he got them, and he brought them back with him. So that was tactical.
It wasn't only him. You all guys did it, and I keep repeating time and time again when people ask me in America about the sales of American comics. They keep thinking, Batman or Superman, or like, no, Vertigo.
I think,
Vertigo sell more here than they sell.
I think we took it seriously. I think we took the job of writing and creating. When I say writing, I mean producing a comic rather than the mere words of it. But I think we took it seriously, and I think up until a lot of comics creativity up until that point always struck me as somewhat incestuous. It was like people grew up reading superhero comics. All they craved was the opportunity to write more of the same.
Yeah, it was always.
And then it was kind of self-gratifying for them to do that, and it became a kind of a clique, a club where you knew the history of the superhero characters from 1930, whatever it was, and you were in that then.
Yeah,
and it was a bit exclusive.
It always smelled like
I think a lot of the Vertigo creators came from a much wider background of influences, and were generally culturally interested, and brought that to the work, and that's what stood out, and then made it translate back again to a much wider audience than comics had been used to.
Absolutely, and also I remember when Milligan was here a month ago, so he told me. Fun thing is that people was talking about the British invasion, and you couldn't find people more different than myself, Jamie, Grant, Neil.
It was
different, but it was like they're all British.
I've always balked at that invasion tag as well. I mean, fuck it, we didn't invade. They sent teams of people over there to take us to the big hotels, the Savoy and the Dorchester in London, ply us with expensive drink and fucking food, and try to get us to work for them, which wasn't hard. Don't get me wrong. Nobody was resisting, but, anybody would think we were there with, kicking down the doors and holding guns on these people to let us write. No, it was the opposite. They wanted to come and fetch us.
Yes, absolutely. See, Berenjena Atómica just asked, could Mr. Delano talk a bit of his thoughts about the famous British invasion of the 80s?
There you go.
He just did it.
It was a bit like what we call the Glorious Revolution in England, where the Dutch king came over and took over the throne of England, and everybody cheered and said, hooray. I mean, it's not quite like that because it's reverse of that. But I mean, that was an invited invasion, is what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
It was perceived as a liberation rather than an invasion.
Yeah, it's like they came to you. You didn't go to them.
No.
So there's not an invasion.
We were easy.
We're asking for, please come and save us, right?
We were very easy. We didn't put up a fight.
Well, if they come and ask and they're like, here's the dollars, then take them. Like, okay.
I still remember the look on Jeanette Kahn's face after one particularly extravagant bash in a sort of private room at the Savoy Hotel with all these tapestries on the wall, and every so often a door in the tapestry would open and a waiter would step out carrying more comestibles of one form or another, and when she eventually saw the bar bill, she was just completely appalled. She couldn't believe that 25 people could consume that amount of alcohol.
She hadn't been in Britain before then.
So I think her experience was limited.
Yeah,
a little limited. But I still remember John Wagner to this day pounding on the table with a 2/3 empty bottle of Chivas Regal and demanding of Jeanette's husband, Mort Fink, that he sell him his name. Sell me your name.
And with John's voice, it's even funnier.
That voice like molten lead,
Oh my god. Okay. We've been at this for 2 hours.
I'm supposed to be on my way to Somerset.
Yeah, so one last question and
okay.
Okay, so Pedro Mercader says, I found that Vertigo has some dark raw tone in it that I find hard to find today in comics. Do you think that kind of stories are not for the big audiences currently, that the audiences today could follow it. Love your Hellblazer. Thank you so much.
Well, that's kind of that. I mean, audiences today seem to be. I mean, perhaps they don't like the darkness with the thoughtfulness, because there's plenty of dark, cruel shit going on in media generally out there, as far as I can see. But it seems a little crass sometimes, rather than. I mean, I thought that the Vertigo stuff particularly, it had humor, even if it was black humor, it had thought, and it had subtext, as well as superficial entertainment as well. So I don't know. I mean, all I can say is, if you like that sort of stuff, pick up a Lupus book, because you'll find that in spades.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, as I said, 2 hours and 2 minutes. And you gotta go back to your life. So
always good to talk to you, David. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for stopping and paying attention for this long. Gracias a todos.
Okay, stay for like a couple minutes, because I want to say proper goodbye to you after I close the feed. And to you all, thank you so much for being here. Wear your fucking mask. Don't be an asshole. And see you all tomorrow with Conan artist master, the Argentinian Tomás Llorelo. See you tomorrow. We're out in 3.